All right, guys, what is up? Welcome to, I guess this would be a Tidal Gardens on the Road session. I actually got out of the house. You're welcome, because the folks from Polo Reef reached out to me and invited me to see Andrew Sandler's Kill the Audio. Technical difficulties, love them. So they invited me out to New York to look at Andrew Sandler, by the way. Andrew from Polo Reef.
Hello, everybody.
And I'm also here with Brandi. She is the marketing director from Elos. But more importantly, guys, she is a Patreon member. And occasionally, apparently, Patreon members get to come on trips like this. So,
only when they've been a Patreon member for years,
yes,
right?
Loyal Patreon member. So, if you guys haven't been in the know in the reef scene for like the past few months here, Andrew's aquarium has been featured in a lot of different places, right? It is arguably probably the biggest residential reef aquarium in the country. It's easily
Legitimate one.
Legitimate one. I guess there's tiers to this game.
There might be one that's not, but whatever. Just
I'm curious what makes it illegitimate.
It's still,
talk after.
It's still pretty good. So guys, you may have seen a lot of media around this. They were featured in Coral Magazine. Shout out to the Coral Magazine folks. You may have seen them on some other YouTube channels as well. Worldwide, they're on there. In person, it just hits different. Like, because guys, I've seen big tanks, right? This particular tank, what immediately struck me was the size of the fish are like comically unreal. Like when you think of something like an anthias, it's like, yeah, you have a mental idea, like this 2-inch little anthias. The anthias in this tank are like bigger than regular tangs and stuff. And the regular tangs are like comically big. And I'm looking at like these Heniochus butterflies, it's like, I didn't think they got that big. Like everything is like scaled up. So when you're seeing content of this aquarium online, it doesn't capture the size because mentally you're looking for these size cues that they don't translate at all. It's like the craziest thing. So anyways, I would like to mainly go off of like your guys' questions, but like real quick, can you just give us like the broadest of overviews as to like what this aquarium is, like the size and how long it's been up, things like that. Real 30,000 foot view.
So the timeline is briefly, we bought the house in 2013. Construction started. The construction phase lasted 5 to 6 years, depending on when you want to measure from architect plans or not. The dimensions of the tank are roughly 16 feet by 16 feet by 9 feet. That 9 foot, 2 of the 9 are below grade, so you look down into the tank. First fish introduction, November 2019. We collected fish first in this particular instance. We weren't really sure how much coral we were going to put in. We knew we were going to do it, but the idea was, let's get these fish in, particularly since we had insight on the Hawaii ban coming, so we got all those things in. And then the first coral, probably only a year and a quarter ago. And the average coral in here is probably less than a year old. In here, now we got these corals mostly from tank breakdowns, as opposed to the wild, as opposed to frags. So they were in someone's home prior. And we think that's really helped, the success rate and so forth.
Gotcha. The fish collection thing, so the guys on my channel probably already know this, but I'm like not a fish guy at all. Like I am so bad at fish. It's comical like how bad I am when it comes to just trying to introduce new fish. The whole quarantine process, I've picked everybody's brain when it comes to quarantining. Can you like give it like an idea of like what your process is to bring in something? Because like my biggest fear is I've got like some fish in my system already, and the next fish could be the one to wipe it all out. You know, that's like my huge fear.
Mine too.
So when I see this,
Mine
it's
too.
like the grenade risk is like extremely high. So I'm sure you have like a stepwise process that goes through this.
Yeah. We basically, if I had a microwave oven, I would go from quarantine to microwave oven before I'd even put it in here if it was doable. So I'm the same way. So we bang the fish out, heavy on meds.
Okay.
When they come in, with the exception of a few different species that we have learned that you can't medicate. There's no shot. So they are like some of these the chody wrasses, Lenardi wrasses.
Yeah, I know that wrasses can be a little tricky.
Yeah, regal angels. That's a whole different ball game. Their livers melt in copper. So you just there are certain things you can't. But majority of the time, we're using the Bobby Miller humble fish method. But we have also learned which antibiotics work better for some fish, which, chloroquine versus copper, which species do better, which don't. We spend a lot of time deworming. And then, even then, I still have chromis in the back. You saw them. That have been there for it's literally 4 months now. And I see one have a couple of urinomia dots, and like that's it. And none of them are going in.
Yeah.
So I have that fear too.
Yeah.
Now, what eases the fear a little bit is a 4,000 watt UV that puts out over 300,000 microjoules per
How
square
long
inch.
is that?
The length of the UV, the
Yeah.
bulbs are 10 feet. And so there are 10 bulbs at 375 watts each. And I know that the specs of that thing kill, velvet, forget it. It actually kills Ixpores too. So if I make a little bit this mistake now, we've had some leeway. Mm-hmm. We've had some crypto outbreaks in here twice now. And by changing the bulbs, and turning up the ozone, one time I dosed peroxide, but the second time I didn't. And it didn't matter anyway. It was just gone.
Yeah.
So I fear that less now, but with urine, the last fish syndrome. You're right.
Yeah, it's super worrisome, and I guess that illustrates to some degree, guys, the difficulty in just even articulating what the process is. Because I had a very similar conversation with Patrick from Reef Wholesale. Because I like to get feedback from people that do it at scale when it really matters, Yeah. And this is a guy that probably does millions of fish, right? And so his philosophy, his techniques, they gotta work. Otherwise, this guy's out of business, right? And I just wanted to make a video, of hey, what is the most simple process to go from point A to point B to get stuff quarantined? And it's not a straight line process. It is this spider web of logic as to how to handle.
And then you have these different species that will tolerate different things differently.
Right.
So what some things can't even take a formalin bath, and so you can't do it every single fish that comes in, even though you want to.
Right.
Some of the smooth scale fish. I noticed the tile fish, for example.
Okay.
Formalin.
Really?
Yeah. And it's just. But they hate copper too, and they do much better in chloroquine. So you don't need to hit them with formalin if you're going to do the chloroquine as much.
Yeah, because it's kind of like an overlapping sort of.
Yeah, a little
there,
bit. Yeah, in some things.
Yeah, guys, I wish I knew more about when it comes to the quarantining of fish process, and to be able to share that with you guys, because I think it's one of those things where it's a specific thing in I think the U.S. market more than in other places, where sometimes our fish just kind of come in really rough because the people bringing it in, they have so many active buyers for this stuff that they have to make zero effort to sell this animal. So they put in zero effort. It just comes in and it goes out. Whereas I think in other places they hold these things for longer, the prices are higher, so on and so forth. So, because I think that like the vast majority of people don't quarantine anything at all. They just don't even have like the facility set up for it. There's not a lot of great
hard.
knowledge base.
Fan,
around that.
if we've had fish done with quarantine, but they've been in the back too long, floating around with no meds, I put them through quarantine again, just in case of cross contaminant.
Yeah.
I got I got too many systems close to each other.
Yeah.
So I've done 2-minute microwaves, and then the next day another 2-minute microwave. So in any event, I'm paranoid about it.
Yeah, no, it's again, it's like because even though like I say that I'm not a fish guy, right? I know what I'm looking at, and some of these fish are impossibly rare and difficult to acquire fish, right? And then when you start to like multiply it by like 100, you really don't want to mess it up by putting in like a chromis and a xeronema in there.
Nope.
You know, that is like a doozy of
It's a stupid mistake to make to try to make that.
exactly. Now, we're going to talk about a lot of the infrastructure of what went on to like put this whole production together. But I'm going to be making a video separately where we go down and in a much more organized fashion about all the tech. But we will touch on the different things here, because if this tank was completely empty and dry, I would be every bit as excited about it because of the infrastructure behind it. Like this sort of thing.
You should have lived here for the 6 years during construction then.
I
Wasn't fun.
I was in my own hell. Trust me. But the amount of forethought that has to go into this, and the amount of like insane, like truly insane engineering that has to go into it, and a lot of what we do is so it's like treading like new ground. Everything is like bespoke and custom. And when you talk to like somebody about a 10-foot long UV sterilizer with like, I don't know, 8 bulbs, 10 bulbs in it, and then you're like, well, how's this thing supposed to operate efficiently and properly? And the manufacturer's like, I don't know, this is the first time anybody's ever asked for anything like this. We don't know. Hopefully it doesn't melt. You know, that
I
sort of
do
thing.
want to ask a question. Yes.
That
yesterday.
UV melt thing, by the way, that was on our number one safety issue in this whole house. I just want to let you know that was
The UV?
the UV meltdown thing.
Oh,
It's
right.
happened to Jonathan, who built this system. Jonathan Country Critters, Jonathan Hale. It's happened to his store. So we have on-off shut-offs and heat monitors on the computer, off the computer, in the UV, off the UV, on the ballast, off the ballast. It's one of the most probes we have is on that UV, because if the water flow slows through it, we want it shutting down. There's no fires in this house. That's a big deal.
Oh
Yeah. So I asked you a question yesterday, and I just want to ask it again here. I am just shocked by how much detail you're able to remember about this. Like, you are incredibly involved. How long have you been in this hobby?
I think my grandfather started me when I was 8 years old, 9 years old. I mean, I remember being 7, 8 years old and riding my bicycle on streets that parents would never allow their kids to ride down. I mean, no way. I used to go on these highways as a kid, 8 years old, with a basket to the local fish store and come back with bags and fish in my basket, kissing gouramis, like that gig. So I've been doing this a long time.
So you're the proof that the addiction just doesn't stop. Like, it is lifelong.
So far.
So far, yeah. But, I am definitely a guy that I would prefer to stay narrow and be the best in that narrow category than be broad. Even when I was a kid growing up, I was a competitive tennis player, whatever, and nationally ranked. They thought I was going to be pro at some point, but I sucked at every other sport. Not really, you know what I'm saying? I wasn't a great basketball player, and I didn't care.
Yeah.
But when it came to reefs, you did pretty good.
I did okay.
You did all
it's
right.
another sport that I did okay in.
All right, so let's actually get some questions in here. All right, so first thing, captive_reef. I am wondering what the alkalinity, nitrates, and phosphates are at on a 17,000 system.
I'll give you our parameters right now if you want, but
Sure, let's go. Let's go through the list.
which one are we going first?
Alkalinity.
We haven't. First of all, ESV salt that we use is probably 9 coming out of the bucket, and we haven't been below 8.2 or above 9 in fact it stayed between 8.5 and 8.8. It's been like that for about 6 months.
Okay. Just tangentially to that, do you know what the pH is generally?
Yeah, it's 8.2.
Okay. That's pretty high considering it's like.
So with 8.2, it used to be 8.1, 8.0, and the difference has been. This is interesting. We've changed the caulk dosing system. We used to dose by gravity from the top to the sub-basement to the sump, and the valve wouldn't allow us to run it really slow, so we used to run it at night. Let's say we run it from 8 p.m. to 2 in the morning. Okay. Now we have an industrial Stenner pump, and it's being dosed 24 hours a day, and that's been probably a 0.2 increase in my pH since we've been doing that. And it's allowed me not to change my GFO as much. My phosphate is precipitating faster.
So you are okay. So real quick, nitrates, phosphates.
Yep. Nitrates are running. Nitrates used to run 15, 20. We then upgraded the Sulfur Reactor. This is a giant MRC. We started the way you're supposed to start in a Sulfur Reactor, a few gallons. Like you started slow, where you're building bacteria. This thing is now wants to gallop. It wants to. No matter what I feed it, it absorbs 100% of nitrate.
Okay.
So we're actually feeding it about 4 or 5 gallons a minute now, which means about 25% of the tanks being turned over with 0 nitrate. So basically, over the last month or 2, we've been dosing nitrates.
Gotcha.
We've been
Yeah,
processing.
because you definitely don't want to bottom that out.
Right. So we've been keeping it between 7 and 10.
Okay, that's good.
And we're adding 1,700 mils of Bob's ESV nitrate, the beyond nitrate a day.
So I'm sure a lot of you folks have no idea what we're talking about, the phosphate reactor, because this is not a very
Sulfur reactor.
Sorry, the sulfur reactor, because this is not a typical piece of equipment that most people ever have to deal with.
Right.
So
And if I had a small tank, I would never deal with it.
no, nobody would ever.
Nobody
do
would
that.
deal with this.
So okay, basically, what is it? What is it supposed to do? And why do you need it on something like this?
So it's basically the anaerobic chamber where denitrification happens. So you're running water really slow through the sulfur, and you run it with an ORP of negative. And we measure that ORP, so usually negative 300. And so you have all this negative ORP, and by the time the water lifts through the sulfur chamber, it has 0 nitrate. So we have, let's say, 20 coming in, 0 coming out.
Yeah. So it's basically.
And then you have to
filtered and dropped
rebuffer it
out.
out, because that water is pH 6.5 probably for the sulfuric acid. And then we run it through a chamber of aragonite before it goes back into the tank to buff it back up to near 8.0. And at the end of the day, you still have a bunch of negative ORP flowing through your system. And maybe the pH might be okay, but that's why in smaller systems, you're at risk for either too low a flow, where you get hydrogen sulfide, or too high a flow, you actually get nitrate coming out of the reactor, or you get all this negative ORP coming in. So it's a little bit dangerous.
Yeah.
But in a big system like this, where we have so much fish, so much feeding, I gotta be some way to keep the nitrate up, like under the ice a little bit.
Yeah, because most filter systems, they're aerobic. So the end product that you're looking for is just to get to nitrate, so it's no longer toxic. But when you have lots of coral, also, you can't have that nitrate get out of control.
Right.
And there's only so many things at your disposal to get that accomplished.
Yep.
And a lot of people would be like, well, live rock does the trick.
Nice.
Well, what if it doesn't? Now you're looking at these industrial solutions. And yeah, this is actually the first time that I've ever seen like a sulfur denitrator at this scale. And you were talking about like how the output is so low pH that
It's actually Yeah, I told you this story,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, this is a great story.
it's melting the media that is supposed to bring up the pH. So it's basically
Excess calcium reactor.
it's an extra calcium reactor to the point that his normal calcium reactor really isn't doing anything.
Nothing.
Yeah. And by the way, this other normal calcium reactor, how would I describe it? It is like a bathtub-sized thing full of media. It's bonkers. Again, I can't show you the footage, but it will be on a video in the future. So, next question. Yes, sir.
There's 150 people on, but I'm only seeing 30 likes. We want to get the message out to more people see this.
Guys, I don't get out of the house a lot. I'm gonna need you to help me out a little bit.
He wore his tie today, guys. I told him no tie, but he wore it anyway.
I dressed up for this,
Yes.
guys.
And he's got these fancy what's the shoes?
They're Stingray.
Stingray.
I put on the good shoes. So if you could help us out, please give this video a like. And if you have any questions whatsoever, by all means, we are here to answer. Okay, let's see.
Anything. I'll answer anything.
Andrew Sandler is so gracious to share this with the world. Exactly. You know how many people would not want this to be a highly public thing? Because, I mean, we're in his living room, guys. You know, like, I know a lot of you guys that don't even want other folks in your living rooms. So, yes, thank you again for having us.
My pleasure, and
Very
my pleasure
gracious.
for the hobby.
Captain Reef was talking about the video you showed me earlier about where you drilled a hole the size of a basketball on the side of your house for the tank.
Somebody just said that? That's unbelievable. That's such a coincidence. That video had the most views of all my videos. I think we're in the 20-some million range. And it was an afterthought that we were going to even post it. And Jonathan, the fish guy, went up on this ladder. He was not the driller. He posed for a picture. He didn't have the safety goggles. He didn't drape the door. And I got every mechanic, welder, any mason in the world saw that video and made a comment on it.
It's like, this is not OSHA. Definitely
So
not.
What was the hole for?
to vent the sulfur reactor.
Basketball hole for the sulfur reactor.
And people were like, you can't do that in front of a front door. And a guy, it wasn't a front door, it was an axe. It was a door to my generator, side panel that nobody even sees anyway.
Yeah.
So it was a misleading video, but man, it blew up.
You can never tell what the internet's going to glom
No.
onto and find interesting.
No.
Because of all the things associated with this project, I'm going to go ahead and guess that drilling a hole is not high on that list.
No, the hole was big, wasn't a normal size, but okay. So you drill a hole for brick. I figured. I honestly it was an afterthought to even post it.
Yeah, that's usually how that stuff goes. It's like, I didn't even want to make this video or whatever it is.
I didn't.
And that's the one that
I
blows
didn't.
up.
Jonathan gave me the video because someone did it for him, and he's like, you may want to see this video. If not, no big deal. 24
People love
million,
it.
24
People
million views.
Queen City Reef, so he's someone from my area, Kevin. He wants to know what's your plans when the tank is fully loaded and fully grown. What are you going to do then? Bigger tank? More tanks?
We have a lot of. One of the things, one of the downsides here so far at Polo Reef is the checked off, we did it list and the things to come. That list does not get any shorter. It actually gets longer.
Just keep adding to it. Check
So
things
we
off and add three
we
more.
have a 2,500 gallon mixed reef tank about to open soon. We've been waiting for computer parts, COVID, and the industrial world. The VFDs wouldn't come in on time, so that's been delayed about 9 months. And we have a tank here, which is a 200-gallon deep water collection of fish. Beautiful coral that will be upgraded to a 900-gallon drop-down tank, also coming around the same time. So those are just two of the projects, including filling up my 17,000-gallon koi pond, which is just starting to accept fish now. And the question is whether we chill out going into the winter and then restart it big again. You know, these poor fish, I can't stand them going through ice. There's something still bothersome about that. You know, off the subject anyway.
It's like,
So
I'm
it's
sure there are
never-ending things here. And then we have another display that we're going to do. You can't see this corner. I'm pointing to it now. We were considering a jellyfish tank. We were considering leafy, weedy sea dragons. We're even considering, believe it or not, discus Amazon planted tank. So these are all things under discussion, and we still have grow out tanks to do in the quarantine.
Trying to keep count.
Yeah, so and that doesn't include all the things we haven't even gotten to in this tank yet, like upgrading the flow and so forth. So the list gets longer, and the to-do list, actually, we get things done, but the list gets longer.
So real quick, Sean Davies is wondering, like, what do you do about feeding? Like, so, like, what do you feed and how often do you feed?
So we're a big believer in mixing a variety of foods and not sticking necessarily one. Mm-hmm. We defrost about 4 to 5 pounds of frozen food a day.
Is this stuff that's like retail packaged stuff,
Yeah,
or is it like grocery store?
No. Both. So Larry's, P. Mysis, Reef Nutrition, the Ocean Nutrition. Like, it doesn't matter. We're just plopping stuff in, and defrosting. I would say the bucket we defrost. It's at least a 5-gallon bucket we're defrosting.
I saw him walking by earlier with a tray of food, and it was like a massive thing full of food. I'm sure he was going to feed all of it to the fish.
It's like seafood catering.
Yeah.
Now we also, I have a chef that I employ, so he actually goes to the fish market and gets fresh clams and mussels for us and chops that up, and so we freeze that blend in there too, and we mix it in. Like, we don't just feed that; we mix it with the other stuff, and it gets rinsed in RO and gets all rinsed, and it gets rinsed twice or 3 times a day. So it stays in a jar in the refrigerator, and it basically gets fed 4 or 5 times a day to these guys, and around the house, around the systems. And then we have, I would say, 2 poles with a PVC pipe like this, with maybe 12 clips, the nori clips on each pipe, and they get 5 sheets of nori on each clip twice a day.
Wow. Lots and lots and lots of food.
Yeah, a lot of food. We get
Hard to
delivery.
process.
I would say we get deliveries every 2 weeks of frozen. I would say they're like 3 coolers worth of every 2 weeks.
Okay. Is there like some commercial bulk packaging that it comes in, or is it just like
It's
like the
coming.
little cubes?
No, sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes we
Oh
still
my
get
gosh.
little cubes.
I can't even
We
imagine.
gotta pop them in. It sucks.
I recognize the packaging. I was like, well, that's the same one I use.
Yeah.
Someone says, how much time do you spend trimming corals? Or are you just going to let the strongest survive?
We've only fragged this tank a few
too
times
bad.
already, and it was more for favors, and we haven't had to. I mean, the corals are growing, but it's certainly nowhere near frag type all the time. But I can imagine the days in the coming months and years where if you join our groups and you subscribe to YouTube and you are on my Instagram, we're going to have giveaways just like everybody else.
We'll plug this up. We'll plug this more later as well.
Yeah,
but it's
there will be
Polo
frag packs.
Polo Reef, guys.
Polo
.com.
Reef.
If you want,
That's the website. And there's Polo Reef by Andrew Sandler, the page and the group, and the YouTube is also called that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there'll be giveaways with grand prizes that are can't be matched by the industry. Let's put it that way.
very generous, hopefully, right?
It would include a trip here and a dinner and for the weekend.
wow.
There'd be stuff like that coming, and it's coming.
Dinner was pretty good, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Dinner's all right.
Right.
When he says he has a chef, like,
It's pretty good.
yeah, it was.
And I got Mrs. Polo Reef on board with this too, so we'd be
Awesome.
dining down here.
Nice. I should enter. I should enter. That's a good prize. Okay. Greg Smith is just wondering, and I don't even know the answer to this. If I would choose any particular reason you went with Larry's frozen over Rod's food?
Because it was white instead of red, and I'm friendly with Larry. That's it.
These are some like highly
Absolutely
technical decisions that have to
He's
be
a
made
very,
here.
that was it. Larry's was clearer and didn't make the water red, and I have a good relationship with Larry, and was there for him at the beginning.
Okay. Real quick, this is something that you might want to touch on because I think it's kind of fun. Queen City. Question.
Dennis, not Kevin. Someone else is on their video. Kevin owns it. There's a couple of other people.
Huh? Does Andrew have any other hobbies outside of reefing and
Yes.
Sound.
sound?
Oh, so you know about the sound stuff. Audio equipment is a big one. Is the second biggest one, and all my life I told you I'm a competitive tennis player. So tennis was a huge thing, growing up, and that was always part of my life. Like people ask me what I have in my garage. I get all sorts of questions like that. I got plenty of beautiful stuff in my garage, stuff that you would drool, but I hardly drive it, and really don't care. I could
No longer a car guy.
I'm not a car guy anymore, even though I never gave up on him. I still not a car guy now anymore.
Gotcha.
In fact, I haven't been behind the wheel probably in a year and a half, 2 years.
I'm jealous of that because I don't like to drive.
I don't like it either. I'm on my phone between stocks and now there's social media stuff.
Yeah.
You do not want me driving.
Yeah.
You do not want me on the road.
Can I not drive also? I hate it.
Also, like guys, I'm from Ohio, like rural Ohio. So this New York City traffic stuff, nah, I'm not about this at all. So it's like driving here, especially. No thanks. No thanks.
Yeah.
I miss some super chats. I am so sorry. Stories, Reef, got me. Thank you. And I think Shelly Flores. I think I saw earlier.
Shelly, yes.
Thank you guys so much.
Shelly. Hi, Shelly. Thank you so much, always. Shelly is she works with us and she's like the #1 admin in the world in saltwater groups.
Oh, nice.
She's the most powerful unknown lady maybe in this industry.
No, now.
Now they know. Now they know.
She basically owns it. She basically is the admin and the owner of SARK, Saltwater Aquarium Reef Keepers, which is the 100,000 people group.
Wow.
Oh, what platform?
Facebook.
Facebook. Okay, cool. All right.
Sorry, Shelly, gave your identity out. No longer can you be Batman.
Dennis was also wanting to know. He says his fish want to watch a live stream of your fish. Is there any chance that you'd ever put up like a webcam on your tank for people to watch continuously?
We're getting proposals now. I just saw. Rashid, you haven't even seen this proposal because I just got it last night.
Okay.
The amount of money that Ian wanted to spend was like
We'll talk about it.
it's in the several 6-digit range.
I have a sense.
So we're looking at it, and we're looking at options. If it is that expensive, to maybe do a paywall, or first we'd love to get it out to charitable and to hospitals and children's hospitals. That would be my first thing. I would not offer it to the public quite yet, until it really became
Like figured out how.
philanthropy first.
Yeah, I love that.
Do you want to talk a little bit about like the philanthropic side of this whole project? Because this is something that like I've heard it mentioned, but only in passing. Because I know that like after talking with like this weekend, like the educational focus was like a big driver with all of this. So like by all means, take the stage. Like I'm completely ignorant of this entire phase.
This is my favorite thing to hear about.
So yeah, you're passionate about this, and we've had more conversations about
Brandi
this.
is super into education. She's
Right, right.
she's working her PhD and stuff. Yes, buy it.
And she has a book out.
And she wrote a textbook. Anyway.
So, somewhere between my father's passing recently and COVID, I've always been a philanthropic guy, but we started with videos with this tank to make people smile and feel good about when they were locked in COVID and people were quarantining, and somehow putting smiles on people's face, I started to realize that this is what I wanted to do with my life. I want to give back. I wanted to give back an inspiration, smiles, happiness to the hobby and education. And bring you guys along on a journey. But then I realized I wanted to do something even bigger. And that was to make sure this hobby grows and survives. Which means you need to spark the young people. And a spark, the way I was sparked when I was 8 and when my grandfather took me to the aquarium. So to me, the answer is marine science programs in schools, funding things like that, and even helping with curriculum, doing field trips to the house. We're working with several schools right now. We hope to release details soon because they're not out yet. But we'd like to build out marine science centers. We'd like to build out curriculums. We'd like to build out even individual schools if it can make a difference, where kids are interactive with the tanks. They're working with them, they're testing, they're doing stuff, as Brandi says, as opposed to just in the lobby, you know. I'd love to bring it to hospitals and for kids to enjoy, cancer kids. My wife's on the board and travels to cancer hospitals and works with these kids 3 days a week. 3 days a week.
Wow.
So that's sort of my mission here. And we'll have more to report to you as we get details. There are certain states that are really, really good and easy to work with marine science, like Florida, because they have their reefing, they have their own reef problem. So it's very easy to work with guys in Florida. Connecticut, there's a big program. It's obviously more difficult when it's more rigid and you don't have an impact. So we're figuring out a way to do this. We're actually working with Florida FAU, which is in Florida, the college. I'll be what am I going to be? I'm going to be an advisory science board member there, and I'm going to be speaking there, and we'll be opening up to the public, and we're trying to work with Guy Harvey Foundation down there. So these are all things that we're working on, and we'll report back to you soon.
The other big piece is the restoration of the Jamie Crescent.
Yeah, so I mean that's the other.
My guy, Jamie. You probably don't watch my live stream. Well, we are all a very big fan of Jamie Craggs. So Jamie is the one that pioneered the sexual reproduction of Acropora, which is now extended to all sorts of corals. And I'm like in these guys' ears, like, whatever it takes. Support my guy Jamie. He is like the man. He's such a cool dude.
I mean, we had a Zoom schedule with Jamie and his team. That was this week. When was that? 2 days ago?
Yes.
It was like supposed to be like an hour, and like it ended up like 3.5 hours. And he kept trying to sell me on the science. I'm like, Jamie, stop. Can we just talk business? How do I invest in you?
Yeah, exactly.
Any event, that's how the call went.
When he starts talking about this, I get so excited, and I feel like there's so much more going on, and I feel like you could do 15 videos on just the things that you have currently going with philanthropy and conservation.
There's a lot of balls in the air, and hopefully they go swooshes.
I have a feeling you'll be able to manage.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential, and it is really just a matter of like finding the right projects. Given like like time and attention is like probably the most difficult thing. Really, it's just managing that aspect of it, because again, attention is like so super valuable, especially to project manage all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's why it'd be better. It's better to do it with the right people, where you know them. The money and the proceeds are going to the right causes and the right allocation and so forth.
And the thing is, it could be super impactful, because I saw a talk during MACNA about how like recreational activities are so integral to like learning highly technical skill sets. Because like, guys, the amount of chemistry, engineering, biology that goes into this sort of stuff, you guys know. And even like when it came to like just me trying to design my own thing, and then on top of that having to learn all the business stuff, it's like it's like this universe of like educational potential,
so many layers
at a very high level to make stuff work.
I mean, this thing's going on in this tank that no one sees. I mean, the spawning that I see every day. People are like, do your fish ever spawn? I'm like, when do they not? Like I see the divers get bitten by the triggers that are spawning every day. So can you imagine? I'm gonna talk to a breed. We're gonna put egg collectors in here at some point. Try to get some eggs. I just need the right relationship with a breeder at some point. So you can't do the scoop and dip in this tank. No, the eggs are gone before, and they go through that UV sterilizer and see you later.
Be a big scoop.
It'd be a bit. You can't get it in on time.
It's crazy.
Paul Gilliam, thanks Andrew for all you do for the hobby.
Thank you, Paul. You too.
Fantastic. And Tian is like, the passion you show is mind blowing. Yeah, that is. That was something that I don't know why it was surprising, but I did. I was caught off guard by how hands-on you are about literally everything. Like you could point to any. By the way, there's a downstairs to this place, right?
And a second downstairs.
It is like it's like the bowels of the Titanic. Like
that's how people describe it.
It is just stuff, big stuff, little stuff everywhere, and Andrew can just point out every little detail of it and tell stories about like what went wrong with this and why they do it a certain way, and then we're moving on to this, and this thing's not, and this probe isn't working right, our ozone system is like something's wrong with this, and I can't pinpoint it, and like the engineers don't know yet.
So yesterday we're sitting on the couch talking. I actually told someone about this. I think this is an awesome story. We're talking about something completely unrelated. He goes, "Oh, there's that powder blue tang that was scratching the other day," and he jumps up and runs.
I happened to have saw him scratch 5 minutes before we had a conversation, okay. So it wasn't the other day.
Okay, well, still, like the fact that he notices, like,
and I
that,
had to go up to it with the back. I put my glasses on, looked very close.
And he got completely quiet, was looking at it, making sure. But the fact that he can see that detail, and I'm like, can't even tell how many powder blue tangs are in the tank, and he's noticing individual behaviors. It's just, I think it's one thing to hear it; it's another thing to see you actually doing this.
So I was the guy probably 5-7 years, maybe 7 to 10 years ago. I was doing what you all do on the ladders, breaking your backs, getting infections and cuts from live rock on your hand. Okay, I did all that. I put my time in for that already.
Since you were 8, right?
So what I decided was to call the plays and be the sideline coach, right? Where I call the plays in, but the plays are on the field. So now I have other people on ladders and breaking their backs and getting shocked or skin infections, but I'm still calling the plays. And yes, so I'm involved in every decision. and every move we make.
To
up to you.
follow up on that, do we want to talk about the episode that we just recently released that will actually show the viewers if they want to
Yeah.
see that stuff?
Yeah.
So guys, on the Polo Reef YouTube channel, one of the guys that they brought on recently is my good friend Pepe Nacker. Did I say that right, Pepe? Okay. He is like the most popular Spanish language YouTuber. Okay.
And he's amazing.
He's #1 easily. Okay. So he is here doing like a lot of filmings and everything like that. So their production quality,
It's going up high.
it's going up pretty high.
Stock's going up.
So so please check that out. Can you like
He just did one so
this-
far. So we just did our first one that was released last night.
Yes. Yes.
what did
It's
you guys
gonna
talk about? What did you talk about in the episode?
It was just a we were leaving for Macna the next day, and it was like coral fell on the ground, and should we get it with a hook or should we do a dive? And then we do the dive, and then it was like a day in the life of a mad reefer, which is what the show is called. And that day we actually introduced our first koi into the pond. So there was some things going on, exciting
Nice.
things. So it was all the tidying up we need to do before MACTA. The next episode will probably be Summon MACTA. So we're going to do this such that you see, it's going to be like that show Below Deck with the yacht, right? With the yachts where they take these passengers, but you get to see what the crew is doing. And it will be much more behind the scenes footage and the real life craziness of this zoo here.
Because
And it's crazy. It really is crazy.
there's always something with a project this big.
Yeah.
Like I always tell like my guys, guys, right now there's 10,000 devices. One of them is breaking right now.
Happens all the time.
Find it. Go find it, please. So I can only imagine like the scale of the equipment that is going on downstairs is like for no other word, it's stunning because I deal with big stuff all the time as well, but I don't deal with like the 10-inch versions of these things. So like a lot of the plumbing downstairs is 10-inch Schedule 80. And it's not just the pipe, because like the pipe is probably, I don't know, $80 a foot, but it's like once you get into the valves and then the controlled 10-inch valves, like, and all of this stuff.
The skimmers that are twice my height. I can't even reach.
Oh, by the way, shout
skimmer
out to
cup.
MRC, Raj. So Raj is one of the owners of MRC. They make a lot of like the public aquarium size stuff. There's a lot of
Raj and Tim. And Tim's been here. I mean, they've come to the house. They've
I don't know
been.
if I've met Tim. Sorry, Tim, if I've met you
Yeah.
before.
He's actually an audio guy too, by the way.
Oh.
The fact that it's actually not an accident. Some of the reefer guys are actually into audio equipment because it's the same recreation thesis.
Okay.
You create live music. You create.
Oh, okay, so he's on the stereo end of things.
Yes,
Okay, gotcha.
but
Because there is a bulk reef supply guy, and he used to be on the audio engineering side of things. So he and I, whenever we see each other, we never talk about reef aquariums. Like immediately, it's like microphones.
Yeah, it's amazing
preamps and
how
stuff.
recreation in general
Yeah.
could like spread different hobbies.
Yeah.
Dan, on this topic, sorry to interrupt. If people are interested in our detail, our system, Andrew gave a talk at MACNA that goes through the system thoroughly from filtration on and on. Pepe and I are working a YouTube video that will go through that discussion with the PowerPoint slides.
Oh, nice.
So they'll see all this within a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for I don't know how much of that was
mic.
on audio, but so Andrew did recently give a talk at MACNA that kind of like went over, and it was like a kind of an overview of like the equipment side.
And
of the
why
system.
we made those decisions more. It was more like here were the decisions we were left with over the 6 years, and here's the reason why we went there.
Right.
Right? That's what it was.
And I think that like so Rashid was saying that you guys are going to be making some more content about that to go into greater detail, because when it comes to like a presentation, there's only so much you can jam into like an hour talk, because This is not. Oh wow.
I know. I was like,
Jeez.
you
What did
guys,
that say?
Who gave us a $3,000 koi? She gave us
Wow.
Ah, yeah.
Thank you so
So-
much.
Martha and John, thank you guys.
Marta said, I love Martha. She is one of the very first
They are
hobbyists
such
I met
great
in person,
people.
and
Yeah.
just massive hugs to teaching and infecting future generations with all the passion you have for the hobby. John
Thank you.
Beauty and the Reef.
Thank you, guys. Your fish is doing great, by the way, and soon gonna have company.
Yes.
And Eric Charlin, thank you as well. 8x10 Polo Reef artwork would go out personally from me on a matted and framed piece today. Top donor.
Yes, he's
Ooh.
gonna give it to probably Martha or some, unless someone else wants to beat $99.
Wow.
I told him. He told
Wow,
me we could do that,
nice.
so he did that.
What do we
He's gonna donate it to the top donor.
for, as what? A koi? Or what?
No, he
And a piece of
an
artwork.
8x10 Polo
Oh,
Reef art. He's gonna give it away for the top donor.
Somebody was asking me how loud is the utility room?
You mean downstairs in the sub basement? So loud that doing videos down there is ridiculously hard, and it's the area that's least filmed. And Stan, you tell them what's going on down. It is the Titanic.
It's an
sub-basement.
engine room. Yeah,
An engine room.
It's an engine room. Like the pumps are what, like 10 horsepower pumps?
There's several tens. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So guys, I'm sorry. I apologize in advance. This is gonna bore the hell out of you. Okay. I remember you said at some point, okay, because like I'm not an electrician guy at all, right? That you had some regrets about not bringing in 3-phase power
That's still regrettable.
because
It would have been a
That's the
big.
question.
3-phase
little bit,
power
yeah.
is made for this type of project.
I can't believe I didn't do it.
But I didn't know anything about this stuff either.
You
like
didn't?
I made mistakes too
Yeah.
on my electrical. I've
But
got
but
regrets.
I bet you it was offered to you because your thing is closer to an industrial.
I have
farm.
3-phase.
You do.
I have
Right.
3-phase.
For me to get into residential, it was. I think at that point 8 years ago, I think they were asked. They said it was a $300,000 investment,
Okay, so that's more than what I spent.
Right.
But
and it still would have, we think, generated a return had we done it.
yeah, it's one of those things like if you don't know, you don't know.
Right.
And no one really takes the time to educate you about this.
Right.
Because I have 3-phase
Right.
and I don't have the right 3-phase.
Was that right?
Oh yeah. So it's like had I gotten this other voltage version of 3-phase, I would have had 4 times the power or something.
If the phase 3 power runs these
Giant
engines and industrial chillers, they're meant to run on phase 3. So if you have phase 1, which is a residential sort of power, you have to have a converter. It's called a VFD, and the and you can have VFDs anyway on phase 3s. It's just the VFDs to convert from phase 1 to phase 3 are very expensive, and the whole electricity costs are just way higher.
Way higher. And also, just like the amp loads are very different. Again, not an electrician guy at all. But you have so much ginormous pieces of equipment that works so much better at phase 3 power. Like
Yes.
all your dehumidifiers, all
Yes.
your air conditioning, all your
Yes.
giant pumps.
Yeah.
Like what else would be on there that would make a lot of sense? Probably even your like air exchangers, and did I say dehumidifiers already? I probably did.
Yeah.
But like all of that stuff, like it runs so much more efficiently. And yeah, like
We think now the number to have converted. I mean, it's too late now because I already bought the VFD.
yeah, no, yeah. I'm
Like
stuck
once
with it.
once you go with that decision, it's not like you can change your mind, unless you want to buy new equipment again. We think. I just had this calculation. Sometimes you look back at the bad decisions you make, but if we did it today, we think it would only cost $100,000 to bring the phase 3 here, and we think our utility bill, which runs fish tank only, $12,000 a month. That's before the 2,500. So it's going to be it'll be $15,000 a month before it's over. We think you would have knocked off 25% off that number.
Wow, that's huge.
So the payback today, if you've done it, would be a no-brainer.
Yeah. And
Zero.
This is just changing electrical, but unfortunately, you have to change all the wiring and all that stuff
Forget
too.
now, it's too late.
Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah.
Someone asked earlier, actually, if there were any things you wish you had done differently, and I knew that was one of the things.
That
Phase
was
3 power.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, Alex G's aquarium, 483 phase is the way to go for industrial use. You are correct.
Yep.
I did not do that.
Yeah.
Alex G's
I
in the
messed
process
up.
of building a giant tank in
giant
his.
tank.
Yeah, I know Alex G.
Oh,
Nice.
he's great.
What's
Yeah.
up, Alex? All right, let's see. Toby Milo, absolutely the best reef aquarium ever. I agree. This is by far the best reef aquarium I've ever seen.
You know, but records are always broken, and God, I hope they're broken someday in this tank too. Just from the hobby standpoint.
It's
And
Guys,
records, not just the hobby, though, right? Like the science and the
Everything,
yeah.
everything. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
like you know, you can't stay number one in the world forever, and like people get better. Like you want people to see this and build the bigger one of this and the better one of this in 10 years.
yeah. I mean, well, to me, what struck me was it wasn't just like the incredible size of the thing, because like obviously that is something that can be replicated in like public aquariums and stuff like that.
Yes, in
it's
the
the
house.
quality of the reef itself. Like it is a very 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 high end, like really thoughtfully crafted aquascape. It has choice fish. It has choice corals. To replicate that, I think is like a lot more difficult on an already difficult implementation of technology and infrastructure. So yeah, that's like I said, it's easily the best reef aquarium I've seen like ever.
Plus, he's got a dozen around the house that are just as amazing.
Yeah, there's some extra ones around the house.
The one over there is pretty cool. Again,
They're pretty cool.
I'll show you guys. I'll show it on my channel. You guys will probably
Here's
do it
the
on
way
yours.
I think about it. I started designing this thing when I was in the 40-year-old range. When you're in your
So
40,
like 2 years ago?
yeah, right.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. When you're in your 40s, you take more risk. You're not thinking about your retirement. You're not thinking about like what you're going to be doing. Like if I was asked to do this project now, I would absolutely say you out of your effing mind. So you'd have to have money and craziness in your 30s and 40s, is what this takes, in my opinion. Just in my opinion, because a wealthy 50-year-old, 60-year-old guys that have money when they're older, this is too much of a burden. You can't travel. It's just people don't want that
You
burden.
need a whole team to. This isn't
Yeah.
a one-man show.
Right.
No, there's several people behind the camera right now who work here. People behind the tank and
Yes. It is constant attention.
do you want me to read it?
I'm just like reading like the Barry Goss Senior question or comment. Andrew sat and talked with my wife and I at Reefapalooza for 30 minutes or so. Very informative and educational. Awesome.
Where was that? Orlando? It had to be Orlando.
Where did you sit and talk to someone and his wife for 30 minutes?
You didn't go to New York, so it's
I was in
Yeah.
Orlando. I was in Orlando.
Orlando.
And by the way, that was. We loaded the plane up with corals from Worldwide and Top Shelf in coolers. Like that's the way to shop there, and to bring home big pieces.
Yeah, those
That
guys-
can't be traveled. They can't ship.
Yeah.
They can't be shipped.
Yeah.
They break.
won't travel well.
Yeah, yeah.
And Worldwide and Top Shelf do such a good job. I like those guys.
Totally. Both terrific people.
Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years with reefing?
I think if my wife had something to do with it, I'll spend more time in Florida and let the team do more. But if it was up to me, I would have zero. In 10 years, I might be doing more, because I would rather retire from the financial and hedge fund side and do this more full time than vice versa. So unless
you love this.
but I don't want to die in New York for tax reasons. So the Florida thing is sort of like attractive at some point.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So, what is your number one goal for where you're going with this hobby and why? Spawning, breeding, inspiring more people to get in the hobby, etc.
If you had to rank it, because I think you touched on wanting to do all
Yeah.
those things.
I want to do more.
All of it.
You rank them.
Give me the choice. Give me the choices again.
Okay. It is spawning of corals, let's say, breeding of fish, or the educational, inspiring people to get into the hobby.
First one is the last one is the most important.
Okay.
The inspiration, the educational, and getting this hobby to make sure it grows. And the problem is I can't fight the conservationists, and I also want to protect the reefs, and so there's a little bit of that issue. Like sometimes you can only do as much as you can. So then the next choice is what? Breeding?
Breeding fish.
Breeding coral and breeding fish are sort of dear to me because you protect the reefs at the same time and you protect the corals, so you don't have to get them out of the wild. So to me, I view it as one and the same. The breeding of the fish and corals, you just need to partner up. It's all about the partnerships, because I'm not going to do it raising larvae.
Right.
So I would need to partner and joint venture. Same thing with the coral, like we're talking to Jamie. That's the way to do it, is to back people.
Sure.
You mentioned fighting the conservationists. I think that there's a lot of people on that side also who are starting to realize that, like, what
Doesn't have
we're
to be.
doing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like we're not on opposite ends. We are actually working together to improve our environment. So I think that that's a huge thing that gets lost sometimes for people who aren't actually in it.
I mean, when I saw Jamie Craig's open up a scolie from Australia and make a baby, they're hermaphrodites, by the way, which is pretty cool because, like, you don't need a partner, but and there's no divorce.
Yeah.
But they do release their eggs, so that they can't screw themselves. But at the end of the day, when I saw that he took a baby the gametes from a scolie and made a new one, gorgeous one, in 8 months, I was like, you don't need to take those things from the reefs anymore. That is sick.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, Jamie's doing some like insanely impactful stuff for the industry for sure. But
And
right,
the environment. Like,
right,
just
but it's not like it's working at the laboratory scale really well.
Right.
And I think the next steps are going to be like, well, let's talk about commercialization
Right.
and stuff like that.
And the commercializations could be to make corals that are more resistant to heat, to carbon dioxide, whatever gene they want to play with, or make the hobby more interesting by making new colors, splices, etc. And lastly, not to take the coral off the reef.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Those are my three
it's
three
like
big ones.
win.
Yeah, it's
Win.
the technology is
Yeah.
here now, and it just needs to be implemented on a big scale.
And you don't have to be attacked by saltwater crocodile. Let's see. Do you have a favorite fish right now? Magic City Reefer is asking. Favorite fish?
My answer to this question is the same it's been for the last 3 years, which is you're obviously partial to what you can't get again. The rarer the fish, right? Like, so if a Hawaii fish died, like, that's more difficult, okay? But the politically correct answer I give is I love all my kids the same, and that's what you need to focus on these days.
So I will answer what was my favorite fish of his that I still have not seen in person alive. It's the peppermint angels. Every single time I go somewhere,
I got 3 for you in the freezer if you want to take a little bit one.
I'll take a look at the crispy ones. But I went to Hawaii once to hopefully like do some filming of peppermint angels. It died 2 days before I got there. I remember hearing Andrew talk about.
So you're bad luck.
Yeah, I heard him talking about like something.
They don't collect them in Hawaii, but that's where they end up shipping. That's where they end up. They collect them usually in Tahiti or I forget the other place where they're located. They're only located in like 2 or 3 places in the world.
Yeah.
But they end up in Hawaii.
Well,
Usually the divers are there, like Rufus was there. I don't know, how many years ago was this?
This might have been like 8 years ago, but
Yeah.
it was at the public aquarium.
Oh yeah, they got him. They got him, right?
They
got him.
had 'em.
Yeah, had
They
him.
had 'em.
I hear that they may have him again.
Oh, okay.
So you have to go to Hawaii
I have to go to
again.
Hawaii again. They could let me in.
Patreon supporters go with that too, right?
Maybe. We'll see what we can do. We need to up the monthly. Let's see.
Someone said something about what is your number one advice for new reefers? That was Martha too.
Somebody just getting into this. Did you talk them out of it?
No, never, never. Look, it depends how old this new reefer is. If it's a young person, you let them go through the live bearers, to African cichlids, to discus, to a reef tank that's basic soft coral. Like that process is it's like a rite of passage. You know what I mean? If it's an older person, you may have to skip a few steps and convince them to like go buy the best freaking equipment. This is what you got to do. And you just like they skip like 45 stages and they just jump into,
The full thing.
the full thing and hard.
Yeah.
So those are the two ways I would do it.
Gotcha. Like do it. It's like if you are like kind of like short on time and attention, it's like get the best that you can. It'll save you a lot in the long run.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Buy once, cry once, right?
And then the people that are young and bought their, when you go from a fishbowl to a, like you got to let that process happen.
Yeah.
It's a natural thing.
And I think it also instilling an appreciation for like, again, how far you got.
Correct.
You see the progression there. Real quick, ever have so Gardner Steve is asking, did you ever have a turf algae outbreak? And if so, how did you handle it with the tank being so large?
No. All these times, I never had anything like that. But I did go through a very, very long brown diatom ugly stage, which we can basically point to a few different reasons. I think one is you start with a dry Marco rock. Mm-hmm. That's just what happens. Mm-hmm. Two, in the beginning, we rushed the tank. There was a party on day one. I had a high school reunion, and the party planners were in charge, and they needed life in the tank, and all the fish weren't all quarantined. So the fish got sick 30 days later. They had a chloroquine phosphate, the whole display tank.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, and then I did a hypo for 2-3 months.
Directly in this tank?
Yeah, before there was coral. But I knew that was the chance, which why I didn't do the Amphius up front. 'Cause I knew I needed fish that could deal with chloroquine. Had this happened.
Yeah.
And it happened, like on day 29. I started
This is
seeing
the good
scratching.
thing about you being involved for so long.
Right, I
You
knew
have
this was gonna happen.
knowledge. Yeah.
And so the first, like we killed like several stages of algae along the way. So we kept going through it, and then we used a lot of diatomaceous earth powder in the beginning when we were dealing with the ick and all that stuff and the parasites. And it tends to have some silicates in it, which actually feeds the diatoms more. Like it ends up going, I don't care what you say, the diatomaceous earth ends up in the tank somehow. Even though
It's so fine.
It's so fine. Yeah, we used to haze the tank out a little bit. Any event, that's why we went through such a long ugly phase. And but look, when I was doing videos for with COVID, I thought that brown, I can't stand looking at those videos now, but at the time they were cool.
I think it's still part of a natural environment.
Totally.
I enjoy it no matter what.
Totally, yeah.
I enjoy it less.
You enjoy it less. Yeah.
I enjoy it much less.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Dennis, Queen City Reefs. What is one thing that you see now that you feel is controversial with a hobby that you would change if you could?
The biggest thing that we are studying right now, we're doing are these trace elements, right? And so I'm working with Andre. I would call myself a modified moonshiner at the moment.
Who's Andre?
Andre is what's his last name? Mueller. He's moonshiners. which is basically a system of running your tank like Triton, where you're ICPing, you're not really water changing as much, and you're really working on making sure your trace element levels are either identical to salt water. In some cases, these guys like moonshiners want some elements actually above seawater. And so you're dosing individual elements.
Gotcha.
You saw all those bottles.
There's a lot of bottles.
A lot of bottles.
And chemicals downstairs.
And so we're trying to understand which one of those are the more important ones. Like, I have no idea whether fluoride at low doses at 0.3, 0.5 parts per billion instead of 1.5 make a difference or not.
Of course, that.
But I'm going to find out, I think. We're in a position to know, because I can cut one back and not one back and see what the effects are. So to me, that's what makes a difference, what doesn't, and then changing the salt mixes long term. So we work with ESV now. They're making me customize salt. They're increasing my vanadium because I wanted them to. Whether that makes a difference or not, we're going to find out, I think.
There was like a question earlier when it came to chemistry. Are you guys like regularly sending out ICP?
Yes, now we are.
You are now.
And and you know, about a year or two ago, I actually bought our own ICP. It's in my garage. It's probably
Really?
good. You never saw it?
No.
Parked next to the Ferrari that doesn't drive.
It's like the garage. So the garage is like the land of like
It's
unused equipment.
Yeah, exactly. So we bought this ICP machine, and we thought we could run it, and we would the time lag of taking the sample and getting back the result, mail and whatever. That's what I was most afraid of in this tank, because that 8-10 day period, stuff can go
Or
wrong.
sometimes 6 weeks.
Or sometimes they just lose it.
Yeah.
I'd send stuff in and be like, I never got it.
Yep.
So I was trying to avoid that, but once we started to realize that, like, you needed a lab technician.
It's not a hobbyist level piece of equipment.
No,
It just works.
and all of a sudden,
That's a bit
there's
of an
argon gas vents being drilled in my like it started to get a little scary.
Yeah, and not only that, but
Really scary.
there's a
Yeah.
huge difference in the quality of the technician.
Totally.
Yeah, it matters a lot.
Full time, to
Yeah.
calibrate, recalibrate.
Regularly.
So we've been sending them off and waiting the whatever, and I'm working now with some people to shorten that period where I can overnight and get the results faster. I still don't know whether we're gonna know whether some of these elements like selenium make a difference or not, or whether they just have to be there, and being stable is more important than the tank off the cliff, right? Like,
Yeah, just about it being bioavailable.
might be
and
enough.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. So we're microdosing a lot of stuff now. We're microdosing magnesium, cobalt, chromium, iron, vanadium.
Well, these things are super important.
But they're
for
like
amino
they're
acid
like
building.
they're like 50 milliliters, 60 milliliters a day in a 17,000 gallon tank. So it's really about just making them a little bit bioavailable. And we'll see the results. I mean, there are plenty of people that just like, screw it, I'm just in cork water. I think the big four are important, big whatever. Some people are like back to, they'll get to strontium and then molybdenum and stop there. Like once they go below 5 parts per million, like they think the machines aren't accurate enough. So there are all sorts of questions in this hobby about that, and to me, that's the most interesting part of this hobby right now.
You think is all the trace element stuff.
And then there's then there's also the test for your bacteria levels,
The biomes. And
the
stuff.
biomes, and the good bacteria versus bad bacteria is more. That's less important to me than like seeing if you have not enough, like you have bad bacteria, stuff like that, Vibrio or something,
Yeah, like viral
right?
stuff,
That's
yeah.
gonna wipe out your SPS.
Right. Which could totally be a thing for sure.
Could be.
Queen City.
Yeah.
Will Andrew be getting corals from Tidal Gardens?
We're gonna plan that visit.
I've invited them over.
And I'm gonna wear my zebra shoes to match his stingray shoes.
I love this.
So let's see. Did you see any other comments, Brandi? That you
There was
thought
something that I thought that it might have been up a little bit.
Actually, so we'll just hit this one real quick. Barry, wouldn't the amount of water changes you do make lesser elements a moot point? Just like the water changes alone.
No. And let me explain that. I wish this wasn't the case. Oh, let me just digress. 80% of the salts, at least that we've tested, you're better off doing the water change than your ICP, because you're diluting what needs to be diluted, whatever. But a lot of the salts are low in things like fluoride and boron that they want above seawater, like, you know, whether that's important or not, who knows?
So like it starts here, it comes here.
Yeah, so the
and you
more
get it
I
here.
change, the more I dilute fluoride.
Yeah.
So I do these corrections to boost it back up because I'm doing the water changes, and a lot of the guys that are using these elements are not doing water changes. That's their whole gig.
Yeah.
So you can fight this with water changes too. It's not like you're diluting good things. Sometimes the things depends on the salt. Like if some salt has a deficiency in X, Y, Z, another one doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you do an ICP on the base level of that salt mixed up, you don't know exactly what's going on.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just me mentally, I was like, I just want stuff to be simpler, please.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
just do a water change?
they're not going that way.
Especially not with something this big.
No, they're getting more complicated.
No.
Here's the comment that I wanted to say. Than, when you walked down, Eric Charlin wants to know, when you first saw this, what was your reaction?
I think my reaction was that it surpassed my expectation and what I've already seen online. Everybody will. I've heard that before, though. It's like, until you see it in person, you haven't really seen it. And I'm like, I've seen a lot of aquariums. I have an idea, but when you really actually see it, it's the scale up of how big the fish are specifically, and your brain almost has to do like a double take, because it's like they're usually not that big, and you see these fish that you're accustomed to being
Amphias the size of your hand.
Yeah, it's like you're used to stuff being like a 3-inch animal, and it's like an 8-inch animal, and it's thing after thing after thing. It's like, that is really, really giant. And then, guys, there's like something that happens with optics when you have like a really deep aquarium, right?
Yeah.
So a 16-foot deep aquarium does not look that deep, okay? But it
The water
compresses.
brings it up.
It
It
compresses.
magnifies it.
So for something that's way in the back of the aquarium to look large, it has to be absolutely gigantic. And then when you start to like mentally process that, it's like the scale of everything is like the jaw drop moment. It's like, yeah, this isn't normal at all.
And I think your brain can process more in person.
Of course,
Being able to take in many fishes
everybody
at once.
says the same things. The videos don't do the tank justice.
I'm gonna work on that.
The videos don't do the tank justice exactly.
Pepe's gonna work on that.
But they don't understand. They can't explain to me in words why.
I think some of it is just that connection. Like still, like
Right.
just thinking about it, like my heart jumps in my throat, and like we're on this thing, and I keep looking back to just see the fish, and it's no words.
By the way, I know I said that's the most interesting thing in the hobby, but the huge call option that would like save the world also is this coral spawning stuff. By the way.
I agree.
That's like, I was talking about immediate future. You want to talk about long-term future, the coral spawning stuff, and being able to not take the stuff from the reefs.
Mm-hmm. and make real custom corals.
That's insane
not,
stuff.
Not just like naming your own thing, you know, like
Yeah, like rainbow
sellers
splice.
do.
Genetic
Tell me how you'd want your rainbow splice today. With
Yeah.
mushrooms and anchovies?
Yeah, there could be like real custom stuff coming out.
That would be what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick quote.
What's up?
To be fair, we can't invite the whole world to the house to see.
Right, it's not a museum, it's not an aquarium.
We can't invite everyone to the house to see the aquarium and get that. But what we're trying to do with these episodes and finally focus on YouTube is so that they can see the day to day, so they can feel like they're a part of this journey.
Absolutely.
That's the whole goal.
Yeah, you will have to live vicariously through the Polo Reef channel.
Unless you're local here, or if I know you, if I really know you and you're online and you're in town, a lot of people do contact me. I'm very open that way. It's just that my wife,
I was about to say, so you better
my wife
check
and the
with your
stranger,
wife.
my wife and the stranger thing is a little bit freaky.
Rashid's like, no, we're not inviting people.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
fuck, maybe.
I'm just saying,
That's two
people.
bodyguards now.
Yeah, like Rashid is like side eyeing, and I'm like, I don't know if your wife is down with this at all.
She's not.
Not allowed to say that. Don't invite people.
Like, Andrew, chill.
Yeah.
Do you dive in this thing? Do you personally?
No, but it's very simple. Why? I don't like to take any hour, 2 hour, a 3 hour period away from me looking at stocks. Okay? Period. When I go to vacation, I'm like in the thing. And when I go diving on vacation, it's usually after the market close. Like I have a huge responsibility, fiduciary to my clients, and then I feel, at least to me, that would not be my competitive edge. My competitive edge is staying out here with the laser pointer and directing the diver the way I see the way the picture should develop, the angles and the corals and so forth. The diver almost has no idea of the angles.
Gotcha. The puppers
Phoebe!
got activated.
What's that?
The puppers got activated.
Yeah, it's all right. Doorbell. It's okay, girl.
So maybe after you retire, you can get more dive time in, perhaps.
The other problem that's happening is as the tank's filling in and there's more and more coral, it's actually getting more difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, like I need to hire like the little guy from Ocean's 12 that goes in the you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
The guy that does the robbery.
Yeah.
I mean, Michelle goes in there and bops around. She's a little girl, but like every time Rashid goes in there
I make cracks.
yeah. I mean, there's some bumping going around.
There's gonna be some child labor law issues later.
Yeah.
Like, get me the smallest child
Right.
that can fit a regulator in its mouth.
Right.
Oh, no.
Francois says if Andrew goes to Tidal Gardens, he's going to come and do a private chef moment for Than and you.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Do it.
Absolutely. What's your favorite stocks? Definitely not AMC
Or GameStop.
or GameStop. We're not going to do that.
We're not going there.
Guys.
Just be careful in the
No.
stock market right now. There's been no flush, and I'm pretty negative that what the Fed needs to do is going to cause pain.
No free stock tips. This isn't free.
Yeah.
All right. Barry's like, I met you in Orlando. No stranger danger. Invite me over.
Tian wants to know, have you ever considered an octopus tank?
Not really, but I've seen them in reef exhibits, and they could either be like unbelievable if they're out, or if they're not out, like you never see them.
Yeah.
They're like
Personalities.
they're really like go from 0 to 100, and it could be anyway.
They live like
What
a
do you think?
year. They live like a year. I mean, they're
Is
so
that right?
smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like if
And they climb out of the tank. They can get their way out.
yeah, they're escape artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel sorry for them because it's like I think if they lived longer, they'd have like an octopus internet and stuff, and they just don't because they last like 11
God,
months.
you're probably right.
Yeah.
The ABA taking over the world.
And the thing
Not
is, like,
robots.
when you get the octopus, it's like already 5 months old.
Right.
So it's only got 4 months left.
Right.
It's bad.
It's a little like jellyfish, by the way. Jellyfish only live
Yeah.
And you had a jellyfish tank at one point, right?
Right, there's a little one here.
Okay.
And we learned a lot about it. And at the end of the day, watching them waste away is very, like they get smaller. And all the people that have jellies, they're on a replacement schedule, like the restaurants, you know, like whatever.
Yeah.
But I can't stand to see it.
Yeah, like I said, just make a video, put it on the wall.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Right.
Be done
You're
with.
missing nothing.
right.
Yeah, you're missing nothing.
Um,
All right, guys.
Reefer
Actually,
NYC says, I think as a joke, because he's a saltwater enthusiast. Is that a freshwater tank?
Maybe I mean, we're gonna have koi. We might do.
do a pond channel. Do
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we might do a freshwater discus Amazon situation in this house along with the koi pond. The freshwater, the amount of people and followers and like it dwarfs the saltwater groups. Like it's like 10 to 1, maybe 20 to 1.
Probably more than that. Maybe
Yeah,
even
probably a
100
lot
to
more
1.
than
Yeah,
that.
it's big.
Yeah. We'll see. How do you pick your livestock? Yeah, because I'll be perfectly honest. Okay? Fish is like an absolute like a choice collection of the super rare stuff. His coral collection is really, really top end stuff. Like the really like nice. What word am I looking for? It's like very, very good taste. Like good taste. So like how do you
Old
go
school
about
reefer taste.
old?
But because you also, a lot of this stuff you've gotten from tank breakdown. So
Yeah.
it's not like you're pulling it out of the ocean.
It's
You're
not all just like plating
Yeah.
Montipora. So, but like, so how do you go about like you know what catches your eye? What do you look for?
You know, for the fish side, we wanted to create a display of Indo-Pacific, right? So I refused to do Atlantic Ocean again.
Okay.
Okay, just refuse. You know, how many people have said to me, "You gotta get a Queen Angel. You gotta get it. You gotta get the beautiful." I'm like, no, I don't even want to put I don't even want to put turbo snails from the Caribbean in here. So there are certain pet peeves. It's got to come from Hawaii to Australia. Okay, that's the part of the world I want. And then there are certain things that people say, why don't you do hippo tanks? Why are there no hippos in here? You know why?
Indian Ocean.
No, that's not why. Because they get huge, ugly, freckly, and lateral line, and I don't want to be fishing them out with nets in 10 years. And so when they breed the mini ones, like they do the mini dogs, the mini golden doodles, and I think that one day they might. Like if you showed me a school of hippos that stayed this big, I'm all in.
evolution. Let's
So
force
a
evolution.
lot of the fish choice was that, like, what's going to happen in the future.
I find so I
Soho tanks. I don't want the aggressiveness.
they're
in
so
here.
mean.
Clarion Angel, the worst.
Really?
We're on ocean too.
Basically, you're thinking about your fish's health.
Yes.
So the,
And the theme of the display.
yeah, the geography thing is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
But I do find it ironic that you think that blue tanks get too big. But like half of these guys have the blue morpho tanks in their tanks.
The hippos, yeah.
Yeah, the hippos.
I know.
And
In this tank,
Yeah.
they get huge. Well, I saw what happened
I
in
can
Joe
imagine.
Eula's tank in the 20,000.
I think it could get real big.
He was taking things out with nets that the size of,
Wow.
you know,
like 2 footers.
and they have blades. Like, you don't want to touch that thing either.
And you take care of these fish so well that they grow and live for a long time. So I'm sure that.
And that particular fish doesn't age well.
Oh.
Gets uglier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't we all?
Men more, men less so. No, I'm not getting
Rude,
into it.
rude.
I'm not getting into that.
Rude.
On that note, y'all, we've been on for about an hour and a half or so.
Yep.
So, thank you guys so much for hanging out.
very much.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for spending some time with
Thank
us and
you,
having
Farron.
us. And Brandi as well.
I've had a blast.
Pepe Necker. Check
Thank
out
you,
his
Pepe.
work on their official YouTube channel, Polo Reef. I expect you guys to all check them out because they're going to put out so much more content than I'll be putting out. I'm just here for a weekend. They live here, guys. So check that out. Again, thank you guys so much for all the super chats. You've been wonderful. And can't wait to see the rest of the system and getting into like all the details. but I have to do a lot more shooting, so we'll have to get to it. All right, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so
Appreciate
much.
it. Off?
Should be good.
Yay, that was fun.